Okay. My oldest son, Camden, totally typically developing. He was in his little play group that we had at the time. He was voted most likely to be class president someday. He was so engaging, so open, would yell to the moms at play group if they didn't pay attention to him. He had an injury, first of all, from his DTaP shot, where he screamed in agony and pain for 4 hours. And of course, we called our nurse at the doctor's office and she said, this is normal. We know now it was brain encephalitis. But he recovered okay from that, and he actually was a very typically developing, actually better than typically developing baby. At 11 months of age, he could say puppy, and he could say baby, and he could point to some letters on the refrigerator. I remember him pointing at the letter G and saying nga, because he knew that that made the G sound. That all changed when he was 12 months old. He had his MMR vaccine and his varicella vaccine on the same day. Within 2 days, he spiked 104-degree fever, and we had to rush him to Seattle Children's Hospital with chunks of tissue this big, chunks of tissue coming out in his white stool. It was totally white. I took the diaper in with me. They told me that he'd had watermelon that day, and that was watermelon in his diaper. He hadn't had watermelon. They did the tissue sample, and it was human tissue. And that was the moment where he started descending into autism. I wrote in my book about him, my little baby book about him at the time, that the light had gone out of his eyes and that we lost him. I thought it was because of the hospital stay, but we know now it was his injury. Fast forward, I had a second child. I was believing my doctor still, because when this happened to Camden, my beautiful oldest son, I said he just had his vaccine. It has to be a reaction to the vaccine, and they said no. He was discharged from the hospital with an unknown virus. So then we vaccinated our second son. At birth, got the hepatitis B vaccine. The very next day, he was throwing up stomach bile, and we had to take him again to Children's, and that started his hell of acid reflux. His whole first 11 months of his life, that baby never slept more than 45 minutes at a time. He also had a reaction to his DTaP where he screamed in pain. Luckily, by the time he was 12 months old, we had stopped listening to the doctors. We knew that our older son had a reaction to his MMR, so Rylan never got his MMR shot. Both of my boys have autism, but my second child, who did not get his MMR, is much higher functioning. He is in a typically developing, gifted program without an aid. He still has challenges. Autism is always challenging. There's always difficulties. But my older son, at 14, almost 15 years of age, still needs a one-on-one aid at school part of the time. My 9-year-old daughter, totally vaccine-free, except for the vitamin K shot, which I didn't know had aluminum. Totally vaccine-free, typically developing, healthy, has so much fun with her friends, plays basketball, plays soccer, plays softball, does not have any of the challenges that her poor brothers have. I'm almost 50 years old, and if I could go back and make one change in my life, one change, it would be not to vaccinate my boys. Which is why I do this. My son gets embarrassed. My older son gets embarrassed by it. And he says, Mom, why do you do this? It already happened to us. And I tell him, if I can stop one other child from suffering the way that he's had to suffer, it's going to be worth it.
Okay, we love you.
We love you. Thank you for coming.
I'm sorry.